Hello everyone, welcome to Commerce Logic. Today we are going to discuss about approaches of working capital. In that, first one is hedging approach, conservative approach and aggressive approach. Now we'll see what is hedging approach of working capital. So under this approach, the working capital financing is based on the concept of segregation of total working capital needs into permanent working capital needs and temporary working capital needs. So under this approach, we are going to divide this working capital into two things. That is, one thing is permanent working capital and the second thing is temporary working capital. And second one, under this approach, permanent working capital needs are financed from long-term sources and temporary working capital needs are financed from short-term sources. So in simple words, there are two classifications of working capital in this hedging approach. In that, permanent working capital is financed by long-term sources and temporary working capital is financed by short-term sources. The next, conservative approach. So as per this approach, all the working capital needs are financed from long-term sources only. So this approach says that working capital needs are financed from long-term sources only. That means from long-term sources itself, these working capital needs are to be fulfilled. Then it is a defensive approach which says that use of short-term sources is risky. It uses long-term sources itself for working capital needs because it is a defensive approach which says use of short-term sources is risky. It is using long-term resources for working capital because it assumes that usage of short-term sources is risky. And the usage of short-term sources of working capital is restricted to unexpected and emergency situations only. So under this conservative approach, all the working capital needs are to be fulfilled with long-term sources itself and not short-term sources. There are some circumstances where there is a use of short-term sources arises or that situations are restricted only when there are situations arise unexpectedly and there are some emergency situations. Only in these situations the need of short-term sources of working capital arises. Then next, aggressive approach. Under this approach, the temporary working capital needs and a part of permanent working capital is financed from short-term sources. So, under short-term financing, under this aggressive approach is more than short-term financing under hedging approach. So, this aggressive approach says that a part of temporary working capital needs and a part of working capital is financed from short-term sources. So, these are the approaches of working capital. Thank you for watching. If you like it, share it and subscribe my channel. Thank you so much for watching.